The power elite and their minions, who apparently believe the world to be their personal playpens, have a great deal to lose. Should the underclass ever learn about the subtle nature of the psychic and social control that operates all around them, and which is hidden in plain sight. However, the task of the revealers is made considerably more difficult due to the consensus trance and the knee-jerk fear reactions that automatically inhibit a mutilated and conditioned mind. The servants of truth know from experience how few friends are won if and when they should endeavor to expose the dirty little secrets of the upper echelons. Nevertheless, a servant of truth is not permanently daunted by the discomfort caused by the presence and proximity of truth, and is aware that it is easier to cut oneself with a blunt knife rather than a sharp one, and that the price of ignorance is far greater than the price paid for knowledge. The servant of truth knows that freedom is never free, and that silence is most definitely consent. He comes to realize that on the great board game of life, if he fatally chooses not to occupy the white squares of knowledge, he will be manipulated by those who will. Welcome to Crypto Reality.
Dave's here tonight with us on Crypto Reality, and tonight we are going to talk about Bigfoot. Big surprise there. But Dave, now I'm a little confused. Okay, like I was checking out your channel, and I'm like, okay, where is this guy based? Because it seems like you're traveling. Is that what's going on, or?
Essentially, yeah. Just to make it simple, absolutely, yes. The first, when I first started actually going out into the woods and investigating, purely to gather, whatever evidence I can find, have encounters, try and see these things, it was in Utah. And I met, I forget how we met, but I ended up meeting Utah Sasquatch, and in one of his groups, I think I was an admin or something like that. But anyway, very, very, very brief time doing that, and we ended up on the phone a couple times doing some group chats, and he wanted me to, he has a small company he was trying to get going, and he wanted me to come out because of my experience as a banker and in finance, and he wanted me to come out and, help him solidify things with the company and do certain things. So, we talked about the details, and I ended up moving out like directly to live with him. So he was my roommate, and that was part of the deal. So I found myself out there and, to do work, but, it was an unspoken, part of the deal would be, we'd be going out investigating, and we we went out every single night.
Now, just to clarify, this is you and Nathan?
Sure. This is me and Nathan, yeah.
Okay.
Me and, Utah Sasquatch. That's kind of how it started. So I got to make sure I don't get carried away, because I can just start talking about everything that's happened, during that time period, which is just insane. But that's how it started. I did that for, I don't know, a few months there, and then I went to Idaho and kind of continued on. Did pretty much the same thing there, except by myself and maybe with a few random people here and there. From Idaho, as home base, I started going out to Oregon, which borders Idaho. So I did some things there, Northern California, Nevada, and now I found myself all the way back in Southern California. I was really depressed about coming here and not being able to to go out in the woods and try and find Sasquatch. But to my surprise, Mark, they are all around here. Insane, but
wow.
they're here too. So yeah.
So back to the beginning of all this, right? Like, okay, so you've been doing all this, but obviously something had to get you into it. So, I mean,
Right.
let's do the standard. How the fuck did you get into this?
Right.
Why? Like here, I'll rephrase that. Why would you want to have everybody you talk to that you mentioned this to judge the fuck out of you? What made you want to get into that?
I didn't, and I don't. As a matter of fact, when I first started investigating, I would not let Nathan put me on camera, even though I was out there with him, having all these encounters, because of the shit that happened to him, and I experienced firsthand. By the way, what else comes with that kind of attention? And there's attention from people that you may not really understand who they are, but they are hanging around on your street, and you see cameras flashing and. Them posted up for a while, almost like they were on some kind of a stakeout. Wow. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna read too much in between the lines, but there's a lot of when you investigate Sasquatch publicly, there's no real good that comes from it. It is only negative, and different degrees of negative, right? Now. Personally, that may not be true. There's a lot of positives because you're enjoying what you're doing, and there's a serious addiction to it as well. But the attention you get is pretty much, generally speaking, negative. You don't make money, right? You get negative attention. Weird things happen, and so what made me want to do it is absolutely nothing. Made me want to do it. I steered away from it, and then after a few months, I realized once you see this stuff, once you realize it's there, once you have encounters, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to where you didn't see this evidence or have these encounters. You know it's there. It's it's hard to stop. So basically, I just got to a point where I said, screw it. And I think I released a video specifically putting myself on camera for the first time, and that was sort of my coming out party as far as not hiding. So from there, it's just been like, well, whatever, So,
yeah, the fame game starts with all these people, and it's like, you're out there trying to do something and show people what's going on, and suddenly you're thrust into the limelight by a bunch of dickheads, and it's like, okay, I guess this is what it is, I mean, we've gone through it. We're going to keep going through it too, because for as many of those people that there are, there are constantly new people getting into the subject every day, and we had this conversation the other day, and they have a choice. And depending on their state of mind when they enter into their, into the world of, whatever you want to call it, it's their state of mind determines on which direction they go to, which camp, so to speak, they fall into. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate, because a lot of the stuff that you're referring to, and it is that way. It's that way. It's negative, and there's a handful of people that are out there, and it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the world's full of people that have never seen one, and full of people who've been programmed since the first time they ever saw it. You know what I mean? And I just look at it like, it's like one of those things, that for reasons I can't explain, has been put on me. And I mean, literally, Dave, if I would have brushed my teeth for one more second that morning, or if we would have, sat at the red light without pushing the gas pedal a second, later or sooner, I would have never saw that thing. And you know what I mean? And it's like, so I look at it and I say, okay, well, to have traveled 70 or 80 miles into the middle of nowhere from where I was living, to be on that trail when it jumped across it at the exact second and everything was going on, and to have actually looked up, being triggered by the guns, I was supposed to be on that trail. That's the way I look at it. And so, and not only that, but the importance of what I saw. Man, right then, all these cocksuckers could kiss my ass, because I knew, and there was absolutely no one that was going to tell me otherwise after that. And so that's why you get crypto reality the way it is. You know what I mean? It's not a time for a debate. here's our fucking conclusions, take them or go away. And so we ride that because we know it's not a question of belief. You know, we talk about that all the time on the phone, Dave, man. And, you know, I mean, let me ask you a question, right? Because I know on the research side of all of this, having, you know, like I said, talked to you a few times, there's, you know, obviously enough that you've experienced and that you've seen to give you the drive to continue going. And you are, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, but on the other side of this, you mentioned something the other day, and this is something that I've experienced myself and probably will continue to as well as you, the reaction that you get from people once they find out that this is something you're interested in and that you're actually engaged in. Talk about that a little bit, Dave.
Well, you know, it's a difficult thing. Even if you look at where I'm at now, and I'm at the point now where, look, man, I can't unexperience what I've experienced. I cannot unsee what I have seen. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I'm not gonna destroy myself psychologically by trying to pretend this shit didn't happen and doesn't repeatedly happen. You know what I mean? So you get to a point of acceptance and comfortability with it, and you know, you've experienced enough negative reactions and weird reactions and all kinds of things you would never in a million years think you would experience from people when you told them some of the things you're doing and seeing. But you know, you get to a level of comfortability where you just kind of accept it. It's like, well, here's the deal: Sasquatch are real. Okay, I you know, judging by the reaction, I may say, listen, I understand completely 100% how that sounds. However, I do not believe you can take any person in all of North America who doesn't have at least basic critical thinking skills out into the woods, into a particular area, or stay at home for you know, a good portion of it and spend a day or two looking at, legitimately, with an open mind, looking at the evidence that's available. That means the photos, the footprints, the hair, whatever it is. I do not believe that even one of those people, like I said, with basic critical thinking skills, would deny it after that. That's the odd thing. It's so you don't have to go through some, you know, massive change. You don't have to have this unbelievable experience with one of these things to move over to the side of
it's real
and understanding toward it. It's fucking real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I told this to people that I've known since I was a little kid, and I'm not kidding you, man. I've lost several friends, people that were like my brothers. You know what I mean? How the fuck do I explain that?
I don't know, but it's happened to me. So, you know, and you touched on something else that I think is critical, and you mentioned this the other day in conversation, and I agree with you on this. You know, all they have to do is review the evidence, and that's where the problem starts. It's not the evidence. It's taking the time that's necessary, the actual 15 minutes, to actually let it all go, all of it, the circus, and sit down for a second and listen. You know what I mean? All you got to do is listen. And I find it interesting that that's the difficult part for people, because there's not a person, like you said, and I agree with you, there's not anybody with a couple of brain cells firing that can, you know, watch something that is out there on video, or listen and look at the tracks and just look at what's going on, that won't come out of it going, wow, you know, there's more to this than I thought, first of all. And like, you know, with the evidence that you know, Crypto Reality has, guys like you, all people all over the country are collecting all this stuff. I mean, this is like academically simple. And so, yeah, I look at that and it's like, you know, for me, this has been the travesty, right? It's about trying to keep someone's attention span long enough, and so that you can get the information across to them. And then on top of that, in a way that, you know, is generally going to be understood. And it's been very difficult, man. You know what I mean? Right.
Well, it absolutely has. And that's just a testament to how unbelievably well the media has ingrained this thing into the public psyche as a fucking fairy tale, right alongside gnomes and fairies and whatever the hell else. That's how good of a job they've done, and it's a testament to how good of a job they've done that somebody can't even allow themselves to say, okay, I'm not going to make fun of this. I'm going to just withhold all opinion, positive or negative, and simply just look at what's being presented. What is there that's being offered that I can then use my basic critical thinking skills to ascertain whether it's deserves more of my attention, or if it turns out that it's the fairy tale that exactly everyone knows it is, according to them. But it's crazy. It's I look at them. I'm in an elite group. Okay, you and your wife are in an elite group. Most of the people listening to this are in an elite group. It's a very small number of us. Okay, and we don't have a belief in this thing. Okay, we don't want it to be real. There's no requirement of faith in what we're dealing with. This small little group, this special small little group, we fucking know that they're real because we've seen them multiple times. We've heard them multiple times. Couple that with the tracks and the noises while the encounters are happening. All these damn things. Okay, and it's not even a question. They're as real as the cars around you are real as you're driving down the freeway. That's where we're at. And so I look at these people who are just, listen, man, I feel sorry for them. I think they're fucking stupid. Like, literally, I think they're stupid. And I hope to God there's a day where, this comes out and I'm going to be knocking on some doors. And I'm going to just sit there and I'm going to ask for an apology. I'm here because I know I haven't seen you in 10 years, but I'm here because you owe me an apology. You know what I mean? You thought what I was saying was bullshit or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It's very hard. Like, you can't, like I said, you can't unsee this stuff. You can't unexperience this stuff. They're real. You know what I mean? There's no question about it.
Well, there's no, it's like, Mel and I have talked about this so many times, it's like, in looking at everything that we've, been through and everything that we've shot and everything that's happened, like, to us, in the field.
Right.
And it really does. It happens to you. It's not like, there's like a choice. I mean, you're there and then what happens, and you just do your best to kind of like try to handle it psychologically and then like also hold the camera steady, and the microphone, whatever it is. And then looking at all of it, it's like, I probably have, if I'm honest, I probably have a nervous breakdown about every 6 months, somewhere in there, because, and this is really the cause of it. What it really comes down to is, what the fuck am I supposed to do, man? Go back to sleep? Like, because this is what I see around me. I see people. It's like here's a scenario, Dave. I'm living The Walking Dead, but only I'm the guy. What's his name? The character.
The Walking Dead?
Yeah, the lead character guy.
I've never seen one of those shows.
I saw one of them, but I don't know, whatever. But the bottom line is like I look around and I see these people that are just sleepwalking. And it's like, they don't even know. It's like, it would be one thing if they knew that they didn't, want to know all this stuff. But it's so bad that, like, you're talking about the programming. And I've studied this for years. What is it going to take to reprogram these people? And in the end of the day, the only thing is a traumatic experience. And in either I'm going to give it to them or they're going to get it themselves if they become willing to actually listen to what's going on and take an interest in doing it. There's not a guy that I have trained to go into the field that won't tell you that at some point they got the wake-up call. There's not a single one of them, and they're all over the world. And so in looking at this, it's like it really does come down to real simple stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And having spent a lot of time in the field prior to my Sasquatch research, I was tracking as a necessity down here to stay out off of something else's menu since I was a kid. You know what I mean? So I familiarized myself the whole time with it. My whole thing is this. It really is so simple. It's this simple. Find the right habitat. find the mud because it's around the water, and then start tracking. If you can track the fucking thing, it's real. That's the end of it. It begins and ends with that, right? At least tracks, man. It's real, right? So, like I said this a bunch of times, man, the Patterson film is enough. But if it's not, any academic can come in the field with me, and I will track a Sasquatch. It's that simple. The tracks are all out there. So when we come down to the simplicity of how it goes once you actually decide to look into this and you go into the field, what along the lines of that? And I know, see, this is the thing. From the beginning, it didn't appear that it was going to be that simple. But it turns out that is how simple it is. You go into the right area and you will find tracks, because the bottom line is they're a natural part of every ecosystem in North America. A healthy ecosystem has a Sasquatch in it. If it doesn't, then it's an unhealthy ecosystem in some way, whether it was through development or whether it was some kind of a natural catastrophe, something like that. But if it's a healthy ecosystem, there's not a state in the union on the mainland that doesn't have reports. And so when you go into the field for the first few times, you told me, and you just mentioned this earlier, that you went in with Nathan, right?
Right.
So okay, was that the first time you ever found a track? And if you did, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so when it was, tell me what went through your head, because for me, it was a light bulb went off, and I said, man, I already saw this thing. I know that they're here, but when I saw the tracks, I thought, this fucking thing's living here, because this is the same area I saw it in, and that was 3 years ago, right? So I'm like, damn, is it this simple? I mean, what did you think?
Oh, it was. So when I first started going out in that capacity, I was at the point where I had actually, since I was a little kid, read quite a few books from. I don't remember if it was the well-known researchers from back in an older time period, right around, I don't know, I can't think of their names right now. Horrible, but
that's okay.
That's all. I can't believe that. I really can't think of their names. But
I got a little of that going on right now too. So
they were. I read like some serious books because I was interested in. I forget how I got to that point, but I was interested in the possibility of these things. Right. That was a long time ago, and then I spent a certain amount of time seeking out as much information that I could about the subject. And as you start doing that, as you start digging around, you start pretty much coming across, I would say generally speaking, things that are kind of unexpected and encouraging and exciting, and things that kind of hook you and move you along. So I was doing that for a little while. And I got to the point of, I was pretty confident, even though I had not personally had any kind of encounter or anything like that, that these things were, it looks like they're probably real based on what I'm seeing, based off the conversations I've had. See, I just started reaching out to all these people that I see on YouTube, right?
Right.
I would just reach out to them, and sometimes I would be able to talk to them, sometimes I wouldn't. I would reach out to the authors. I wrote letters to the authors of the books that I read, and I would get feedback from them. And I'm gauging kind of just as you do when you go to the grocery store and have a conversation with somebody, or you're out at work having a conversation with somebody. You're consciously and subconsciously sizing them up, right? Are they serious? Are they a jokester? And I started getting a very strong impression with most of these people that, okay, these guys aren't dicking around. You know what I mean? In a couple instances, I instantly felt that they were pretty damn intelligent. They were speaking articulately. They were thought about what they said before they said it. You can tell they were thinking scientifically about it, and that, again, it just kind of built this strong base in my mind, and I started to feel, there's a good chance these things are real. And then when I actually started going out into the field, and I don't know what this is. It is shocking, I can tell you that. But I go out into the forest pretty much, in my mind, thinking that I know these things are real. But then you see a track and then have an encounter. And it's a light year beyond where you were before.
That's right.
You knew these things exist. It's
a rush.
Profound. It's shocking. It's very difficult to deal with. It really is. Not just at the moment it's happening, but afterwards, the days, the weeks afterwards. And that's pretty much, if I was to describe it, I would just say it's profound. It's shocking and it's profound. And I instantly realized I ended up reaching out to Wes Germer for Sasquatch Chronicles. I had not listened to one full episode of Sasquatch Chronicles when I reached out to him. I was in a position to where I needed to get this shit out. Okay, I had to talk to somebody about it, and I had to talk to somebody about it that wasn't going to look at me like I was crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So I reached out to him, and I ended up being on the show. I did episode 278, and really for me, I was just talking about some stuff that happened, and my side of it was 100% therapy. And thank the Lord God for that. Thank God for that. I needed it so bad, and I continue to need it. That's why you can't go back once you start experiencing this shit. It's a psychological. I mean, I'm sure I have PTSD from the encounters I've had. I'm positive you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's really difficult. It's exciting. It's difficult. It's scary. You want to run away. You want to run toward it. It's just everything in the book happens all at once, and it's really, really intense. All of it.
That's pretty much the same thing that I think. I mean, you put it, perfectly, man. It's, and then you got to pick the shit up and go back in. And that's the part that really requires, I mean, it's one thing if you're in an area, like I have no trouble going to a new area and it's like, I love it, right? When we're looking at new, satellite imagery, I'm like, okay, well, I know we're going to get them here. So, I mean, they're all of the necessary parts of the house, so to speak, are present in certain spots. You know what I mean? So I find it, and then I'm like, okay, and we'll go in and look, and usually that's like that's the fun stuff. It's all the shit after we start having experiences. That's when it gets difficult for Mel and I. And Melanie charges, man. You know what I mean? She charges. It's like, she's just like. And, we've had conversations about that where I'm like, well, what's going on in your head? She's like, I'm not even here, man. I'm just doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like so traumatic and you're so freaked out and you're like not even in your body and shit, It's like your senses come on and you're in reaction mode. You know what I mean? It's like you become a wild animal and you're just trying to stay alive for like a few seconds. And then it'll all, most of the time they back off. When they back off, we're like, okay, It's time to go. You know what I mean? Because, like, you don't want to run in those situations, and we've been in those situations on several occasions, but the hard part for me is, 3 weeks ago, man, I had we had an encounter, Scott, me, and Melanie, with several Sasquatch. 3 of them through the thermal close and clear, and it was like, man, I got to go back in there, and it's like, so... where we're at now is we're trying to manage that so that as little risk is taken as possible. Like, Scott's, chomping at the bit. And I'm like, I know. But we made a decision, the 3 of us, that we weren't going back in to that spot at night until both thermals were filming properly. And so we're working on that now. And it's like, to be honest with you, Scott I don't know how I ended up going in there at night again. It was like, I don't like it. I don't like the place, none of that. So it's real difficult. And like my thing is I want to do what needs to get done so that we can show people that, look, unequivocally, this is what's out there. Here it is. You know what I mean? And I look at it like, what's going to happen then? You know what I mean? Because I don't think people get the gravity of it, like, that disconnect, you haven't experienced it, you don't know. And man, it's like that with a lot of stuff. Like, I grew up playing around the ocean. If you've never been attacked by a shark, but yet you've seen it, you still don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know. There's this side of you that unless you've been faced with like being consumed or killed in some way, you don't know. And I'm not talking about a car accident. I'm talking about something that is stalking you or going to get you. You know what I mean? There's only victims of that kind of an experience will actually realize what I'm talking about. And like, Sasquatch, while intelligent and all that stuff, are still like their own sentient beings and like have their own decision-making process, whatever that may be. And that alone, combined with their sheer size and all that stuff, just I can think of about 40 scenarios right now that are possible to happen the next time we go in with those thermals. And I don't want to do it. I'm going to do it, but I'm thinking, first of all, like, I always just say this thing. I say, well, it's, in the interest of science and I got to do this. And it's like, I've said this before, like science doesn't give a fuck about this. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're supposed to be looking out for you. And so how do we do this safely? And, all that stuff's like considerations now because it's absolutely happening. And when it's absolutely happening, there are considerations, you know what I mean? So when you're faced with those situations, going into areas that you absolutely know, Dave, what goes through your head and how do you prep for it?
What goes through my head is that I am in the environment that I am in right now is not my environment. It is occupied by these giant humanoid, for all intents and purposes, monsters, right? With superhero strength, literally superhero strength. And I am very, very vulnerable right now. What goes in my head is, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Holy shit, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? An encounter starts to happen at that point. I'm never coming out here again. It's like everybody that's had too much to drink and the world will not stop spinning and you pray to God, if you let me get through this and stop the world from spinning, I will never drink again. Right?
Right.
It's kind of that bargaining, that pleading, that begging, just let me get through this. But it's not like that every time. Sometimes it's absolute. Well, I'd say the majority of the time at this point, it's, I don't know how somebody gets to this point. I don't know how I've gotten to this point. And it's not all the time, mind you, but it's a point of acceptance that you know what these things are. Very intimately, you know what these things are. You know what they're capable of. And you understand that for one reason or another, for reasons that you can't necessarily predict, you could be dead really, really, really fast from 1 minute to the next. And that's just fucking fast.
Yeah, man.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
And
yeah.
For that reason, I think, now there's a lot of people at this point. There's, I don't know how many people, but let's say in earnest, there's 50 people, 100 people, would you say, like in North America or around the world that actually regularly go out into the forest and put themselves knowingly in harm's way or aware of these creatures that they exist. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good estimate. Real deal.
Right. Real, absolutely. And the thing is that is a very, very small elite group of people. Okay. And one thing I've noticed, like within the Sasquatch community, and I'm holding my fingers up in the air in quotations, community.
Yeah.
It's more like a dysfunctional,
mob,
crack addicted, family. But I mean, it's horrible. You would think it would be the opposite. You know what I mean? We've all experienced this crazy shit. You'd think we would be like brothers and sisters supporting each other, but it's not. And I realize everybody wants. The reason it's not is because everybody wants to be the man. This means generally speaking, everybody wants to be the man. You know what I mean? They want to be the one, and they know more than this person. And they like blah blah blah. And it's like a inflated false sense of ego.
Yeah.
A lot of these people that are out here doing this, they're not formally educated. They don't have jobs they go to every day to where they are, making critical decisions and people are speaking to them with respect. And, they have the authority to sit down entire divisions of a company and lay them off. You know what I mean? These are people that, they're pissed on every other day, just like, most of the population. And then suddenly they're in this tiny elite group where they've had these experiences, they have the video or whatever else to prove it, They consistently go out in the field. People reach out online and they ask them questions, and it makes them feel pretty damn good. And I think that's what's going on. And they, they want to hold on to that, and they want recognition for it. And I think maybe they fascinate about where it's going to take them. Are they going to have elementary schools named after them in 50 years? I'm sure some people think of that. But the bottom line is that it's I totally got off track here, by the way. But the bottom line is it's not up to any one of those people. It's not up to me or you or any one of us. I don't know. I guess society is going to make those decisions as far as who, what, when, where, and how. There's definitely a very, very short list of people within that group that have done, the lion's share of the work, so to speak. You and Melanie are definitely on the short list. There's no doubt about that. But what were you asking me? Was it going out into the field?
Yeah, you went into it. You said it, man. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I've said it before. It's like swallowing your own balls, man. When you go to an area at night and you know what's waiting for you somewhere in there, right, and you literally have the information that's necessary to find that exact area that they're going to be in. You know what I mean? It's like, right. It's just not right, man. You know what I mean? It's not right. And it's hard to deal with, man. It's even harder to deal with knowing how receptive people are to the information. But right. Melanie and I view this as like a humanitarian issue and, of like epic proportions. And it's like, I've said this a couple of times in the past. One of the greatest secrets that the U.S. government has managed to dissuade the general public in many different ways from ever coming to realize is that hominoids never went extinct in North America. I can't speak intelligently to researching out of this country, but I know they're there because it's the same scenario over and over on every continent. But if you really look at it, they have, and there's no way to hide it. And that's the funny part to me, that you really, like, the truth is like everywhere, man. You know what I mean? It was going on in the 60s with this. And it's like, you and I talk about this a lot, the media coverage, you know what I mean? And you're looking at all this and it's like, it's not that it's like, I use the word secret loosely, like really what it is that they've created a dichotomy in the public's mind where Sasquatch is concerned it's become the butt of a retarded joke. And in looking at this, and really furthermore, people who look into it and are the butt of this, you know what I mean? And I see it, I study it actually. And so in looking at all of this, dealing with that, when you're picking up your shit to go in somewhere at night, you might die. It kind of, you have to, I've done this. I've sat many times and questioned, why the fuck am I doing this? You know what I mean? And the one thing that, in the beginning, it was like, for me, it was like, I got to catch this damn thing on film. I want people to see what I've seen, because if they see what I've seen, they're going to understand why I say what I say. And so, that's what the last 5 years have been, learning how to get to that moment. And I feel like we're on the cusp of that, but, you really question yourself, because it sometimes, most of the time, actually seems like most people aren't even willing to listen. And furthermore, that you become aware that things are in one way or another, whether it's algorithm or it's, people, under control. And it's not the information that's under control. It's the platforms that control the release of the information that are under control. So it's like, like I was talking with Melanie a couple weeks ago about some Senate or some congressional hearings I watched with the guy from Twitter. The congressman got right to the point where he was going to ask the pertinent question. Why is it that certain political parties are not getting as much attention as other ones. And the guy said, well, we're looking at algorithm and blah, 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 blah. And the bottom line is the way the guy from Twitter described it was like the algorithm just popped out of nowhere and it's this uncontrollable thing. When the reality is somebody programmed it to do exactly what those individuals want that thing to do. And so when you look at it, it's like the congressman, right to the point where the next question should have been, who's programming the algorithm? Who's responsible for it? We need to know. And he didn't ask it. He didn't ask it. And so what we watched was a 3.5-hour dog and pony show. Because they asked all the questions that were necessary with the exception of the question that was on everybody's minds who was watching the damn hearings, which was, who's responsible for censoring this information? They programmed the algorithm. Was it you that made the decision to make this political party more popular on Twitter? Because it's happening. And literally when you look at it, this is across the board, man. This is across the board. And it's not because 8.5 billion people won't find this subject fascinating. I got news for you. That's not why the algorithm eliminates it from people who haven't looked for it before. If you want to know what YouTube wants people to watch, you don't log in, and you just go to YouTube when you're outside your Google account. And you'll see this is what they want people looking at. Because that's what's popping up underneath the most popular videos. And it's not Sasquatch. And that right there says everything that we need to know. They're not putting it out front. And it's not because it's not something everybody should know about, first of all. And it's definitely not something that's not fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. 100%. Well, listen, there's a reason that YouTube was bought for the amount of money it was bought for, and there's a reason it's valued at the amount of money that it's valued at right now. And that reason is not just to measure people's interests and habits in order to focus in on marketing, things like that. It's way, 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 way more. It has to do with control. It has to do with definitely measuring of behaviors and other psychological factors. But there is just a vast litany of fantastic things that can be discovered, ascertained from that platform. And absolutely everything that son of a bitch does, unless it's an independent AI or something, right? Which is not, is humans tell it to do and not to do. So it's getting more and more obvious. That's that hearing you're talking about is to me it's a little window into how the whole twisted sick system functions on a daily basis, right? I don't think it's it's just that little situation. That's how shit works everywhere. And you have all these sheep, these morons just walking around. The only thing they're worried about is, how their hair looks and, whatever moron reality TV jackass is interesting at the moment. And it's, that's not an accident. Again, that's not an accident. You know what I mean? But
are you
big mistake.
Dave, are you referring to the metrosexuals?
I don't think that's politically correct for you to say metrosexual. I think it's some other shit I'm never.
Well, you know what, Dave? Though I'm not actually politically correct ever. So I don't know.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Shocker.
I may have come on this show as a mistake, Mark.
You know what, man? Forgive me for my temperament and my ignorance.
Mark, think about people's feelings, would you?
I know, right? I should actually.
No, you shouldn't. You should think about, do unto others. That's the simple rule. Do unto others. If people treat you with respect, you can treat them with respect. People are nice to you, be nice to them.
If that was the case, man, there'd be some people in the hospital right now for the way they've been treating crypto reality. I got news for you.
Hey, whoop some ass. I'm all for it. I'll back you up.
You know what I want to do? I want to get one of these guys that likes to do what they do to crypto reality. I want to get them and then film it and put it on YouTube. You know what I mean?
That'd be awesome. And then do a breakdown of their ass whooping.
Like slow motion. I'll put the highlight circle I'll highlight right when he impact, you know, and the tooth coming out, all of that. You know what I mean? Yeah, buddy. It'll be like slow motion. I'll even write a symphony for it, special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put that baby in. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. You know, hey man, listen. For me, it's always been it's been the number one priority to continue what we're doing until what we set as our, you know, final goal is accomplished. Right. And we're going to keep doing that. There's nothing that I'm aware of that can stop us, you know, and, you know, it's like people talk about that, you know, I get this all the time. I don't know about you, but I get the Men in Black comments and I'm like, look, man, check this out. There's no fucking conspiracy about Sasquatch. It's people. Okay. And you're one of them, right? Take a long, hard fucking look in the mirror and understand that you're participating and you're complicit in covering the shit up. Okay? Because until you take a stand and say, no, we want the truth, nothing's going to change. And that's the thing about this country, right? Like, you look around the world, the last 10 years, there's been more riots over central banking and international banking, and whole countries losing their economies because people have stood up and said no. And it's all over the news. And you know, you really got to watch foreign news stations to actually see all this. But because ours aren't showing any of it, because the last thing they want to do is awaken the monster. They don't want to awaken the monster. And so the only way you can get away with something like this long is to program the monster to work for you. And that's exactly what they've done. That's most of our conversations most of the time, right?
It's a scary thing.
It is, isn't it?
Like I said before, they've done a really, really good job at getting people to the point to where they won't look at what's going on with the Sasquatch. They will not do it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how good of a job they've done. They passively and consistently, and it's an ongoing brainwashing, and it's a facade. All of it's a fucking facade. Literally, just a bunch of marionettes.
End part 1 with Dave from Sasquatch Omega.